I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first thing we have is a request for council action. We have several of them. Pat Patton's in the back. Thank you. Finance Committee, we have 1452, purchase of Concord dump body for Street Department. 1453, accepting enterprise zone, no convene notice of minutes. 1454, advance request from number 001 to 319H grant fund number 134. 1455, budget amendments. 1456, establish new fund, section 319H, 9-point source grant fund number 134. 1457, Firehouse Museum Progress Archive Commission legislation redraft. 1458, ODOT cooperative purchase sodium chloride. 1459, resolution of support issue number 1. 1460, expenditure over $15,000 for Arnold Masonry Public Buildings. 1461, amending ordinance 1514, public backup building official. 1462, raising of buildings on city-owned property at 342 East Smith Road. 1463, bids of Wadsworth Road water main. 1464, bids of Gunnison Court reconstruction. 1465, consent legislation with ODOT traffic signal State Route 3 and High Point Drive. 1466, expenditure of Banana County Sanitary Engineer water emergency. 1467, job creation grant for Discount Drug Mart. First one up we have is 1452, purchase of Concord dump body and package from the Street Department. Mr. Picoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was ordinance from 2013 for the replacement dump truck. We had requested for one PO for the cabin chassis and then additionally a PO for the bed. Their cabin chassis was delivered, and the reason I asked for her was to revisit this and have just one PO, I'm sorry, two POs. One in the amount of $61,194 to Rush Truck Centers for the cabin chassis, and then the second in the amount of $27,227.43 for the dump body, which is at the Concord waiting to be built as we speak.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Just have the emergency clause on it?
Yes.
It should, yeah. It says no, but he's.
I was going to say I didn't see it on there, but okay.
Um,
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second with the emergency.
It's not on the I'm sorry.
It says emergency clause requested new.
Yeah, you're right, it doesn't say no. Okay, we'll do it though, because they're saying yes.
Wait, go ahead.
Okay. Any other questions?
Bring it on.
All in favor with the emergency clause?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Nino. Next item is 1453, accepting 2013 enterprise zone minutes for no convene. I guess this came from the county as their annual meeting. Who's on that committee? We're supposed to be on
I
it.
think I am.
You are?
Am I on that?
I don't think there's,
They haven't met in like 2 or 3 years.
yeah, they haven't met
It's
because
a formality for the auditors, they have to have this.
they have to have this, so this is just to prove that there is, says the 2014 Tax Incentive Review Council, either approve or reject the enterprise zone meeting minutes, which I believe there's no active agreements, so there's no meeting. So I'm not sure really what we approve. I guess we approve that there's no meeting
Yep.
and there's a no convene notice.
Move to approve a no convene notice.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1454, advance of account number 001 to account 134, 319H, non-point source grant fund. Mr. Durham.
This is an advance to cover a grant. The advance is to a fund that we don't yet have. It's on the agenda later to create said fund. So if you're in favor of the advance, you need to be in favor of the fund as well.
And this is for the Ohio EPA Champion Creek Restoration Project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other questions?
Can we just get an update from the administration? Is this going to happen this year then, or?
Yeah.
Is that what
The money's available now. It's coming from the state. It was not coming until now. So that's why we're doing this advance, and then we'll have the money available, and then it's a matter of just getting the project underway. Yeah. And this is, as a reminder, this is from Elmwood to Court, and then from 406 South Broadway to the east side of Bennett Lumber. So we're skipping that little area between Court and Broadway. But other than that, it's almost that way.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 5, 1455, we have 2014-010 General Purpose Advance from Water Cap Fund 546.
We discussed this a couple weeks ago, and we changed the way we're going to do the repayment of this advance, but because of that, we need additional appropriation to match what we decided a couple weeks ago.
Right. Everybody remember that discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2014-006. This is the grant.
This is the same grant we discussed a little bit ago. We're advancing the money to the new fund that we're creating, and it's to pay out of that fund for the project and then to repay it eventually.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 6, 14056, establish new fund, section 319H, non-point source grant fund, account number 134.
This is the aforementioned fund that we're creating, that we've already approved advancing money to and appropriating money into.
It's kind of complicated. You're granting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Anybody have any questions about the appropriations in advance and the fund that we're creating? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item, we have 1457, Firehouse Museum Progress / Archive Commission legislation. Mr. Lamb. This is yours.
Thank you. In the end, I guess this is what I'm thinking, it would be a good way to, I think, a good way to look at it, and Roger Smalley's here, who's the head of the Archive Commission, but in the end, I think it would probably be helpful, finance is I'd like to talk about it tonight, but it would probably, my recommendation would be that if we could put it maybe in special legislation,
Yeah.
and then set up a work session with Archive Commission, Roger, some of the other interested parties like Main Street, maybe a rep from the chamber, some from the business community, so we could take a look at it. My thought was clearly this, that the Archive Commission has been really in a number of, it's been around for about 12 or 20 years, and in a lot of incarnations it's had. And we really said to the Archive Commission, we said, we really want this open. We want the Firehouse open. But as you look at it, we probably haven't given it enough attention to put it where you'd want it to be. And after a year, which, to the Archive Commission really has done a good job of putting, what they put together is good. But there's a long way to go. And I don't think you can go that far without some, I think that we could improve the organization, which would be helpful, number one. And number two, I think that we need to better fund the project. It's a huge expectation. I mean, if you sit in Cool Beans and you look out at the square, you see two things jump out at you. One is the gazebo and the other one is the firehouse. And the gazebo we maintain, perfectly. Whereas the firehouse, no fault to anybody, but the firehouse really has just kind of languished year after year. And in the process of working with the administration on the renovation of the upstairs, it's evident that the fire station needs more than what we've given in the $18,000. I mean, it needs a new mechanical system, it needs a new furnace, it needs air conditioning, it needs work on the floor. And in order to get, I think, what everybody wants, which is really first rate, we can't expect to do that, through volunteer donations and volunteer effort. So when I looked at it, it seemed to me that one thing we might want to think about is the archive committee. There's archiving and the collection of important information and objects is one thing, but the continuing then operation of the museum itself, the two aren't really the same thing. I mean, one thing is the initial organizing and establishment, and the second thing is the long-term operation. And to do that, it appears to me that there needs to be the ability to take some aspect of the Archive Commission and have its absolute focus be the operation of the museum. We want it open on a schedule. We want it open on a regular basis. We want a lot of stuff. And so we really, we kind of gave the commission the cart, but we didn't give them the horse. And I think that there's probably a way to do that. And, one thing I looked at was, do we need to create a separate, integrate the same people that are working on the Archive Commission, integrate it into a separate commission so that it is just a museum commission, not the Archive Commission? Or is there a better way to combine that?
Yeah, because you talk about, because right now it's a city-formed commission. And are you talking forming like a separate 501c3, as you say here, so it'd be unrelated to the city?
Well, I think two things. One is the example, I guess, that I was trying to use was the Cemetery Commission. The Cemetery Commission has become so strong and so beneficial to Spring Grove that in good part, one of the reasons that we've been able to do a lot of what we've done is because of the Cemetery Commission. And if the Engine House had the same kind of outside group that could form a large pool of volunteers and help raise funds, just separately from what we do, that would be the first benefit. The second thing was, can we put some money in that would go, it could be funneled through Main Street or through some other organization, and have that money matched so that there would be the ability to have somebody, to open the museum up when there's not volunteers to do it. Somebody who was just a functional person who could do that and be there so that it could be open on a regular basis. Because we have such a treasure trove of history to show, and we've decided it's really important to do, that we've, in a sense, dedicated a big portion of the only building we own on the square to do it. And then to have people go to all the work that's been done to gather it all up and organize it and display it, but then not have the ability to have it open, is probably not where we want to be. And I don't think that you can expect a small group of people on the Archive Commission to be responsible for that expectation of opening it, managing it, doing all the things you have to do with it.
So you want to push this to special legislation to come up with a plan, of a recommendation then of what you...
Yeah, I mean, these are my ideas. I think if I go to a museum, I want to walk away. I come to Medina and I go to the museum, whether I live here or not, I want to walk away with a piece of literature that probably tells me something about it. And I think you can get participation from a number of places and organizations in the city that could contribute to that. I think the retelling of our history here is so important because it's what kind of guarantees that what we've done in the past will carry on, because people will know how this city got to be the successful place that it was. And so it seems like if we could pool these, these are my ideas, kind of pool those with the folks on the Archive Commission, Main Street, Chamber, some business people, and take a month or two to get that, and then come back with some suggestions, and maybe nothing that I recommended, or maybe just a part of it. But I think, bottom line is, I think we had an expectation when we met, we talked about this before, that we wanted the place open, but I'm not sure we actually gave the means to do that, either the, really the organizational means or the financial means to do it.
Questions? Is everybody okay? I mean, I guess the question I would have is the financing of it. I mean, right now, I'm not supportive of doing annual funding of it. I mean, we have a lot of things. I'd rather give more money to Main Street to do more projects rather than Main Street give money to the Firehouse Museum to hire somebody to open it up. That doesn't make sense to me. I think the idea of a 501c3 and raising funds to have it self-funding, I think that's a great idea. But I don't know what other organizations, because you're right, the Cemetery Commission to a certain extent receives grants, raises money, has their own funding sources to accomplish that. And it is, of course, we do fund certain things because it is a city-owned cemetery, just like this is a city-owned building.
Right.
And we do things. I mean, we spent money on the elevator, I think 10 grand, and every year we spend so much, thousands of dollars just to keep it operating, but we never use it. But that's another question, because we have the second floor there. So there are other concerns that that building has to be used for. But I mean, what is everybody else's thoughts?
Well, I agree with you, John. Establishing a 501c3 is the right way to go, in my opinion. But it'd be great if we could get somebody to bequeath us money like the Cemetery Commission did too. That goes a long way to help too. I'd like to see what the Special Legislation Committee comes back with and to make a decision from there.
John, I just want to say, I'm on the archives, I'm the council rep for the archives committee. We met last week. We have a plan for the summer. One of the things I was going to put out to council is that, it's just having the bodies there to cover the times that need to be open. There's a lot of events up there now. I actually told the archives commission I was going to ask council if we would volunteer to take the 2 months of band concerts, and all of us commit to a night of being there for those 2 hours, 2.5 hours, as our commitment to the archives, because I think it's got to start right here. And it has come so far. I mean, I guess I've been on it since as long as I've been on council here, and just sitting there last week for our meeting, the place looks great. The history is really spelled out nicely, and there's lots of good things in the works here, and we're so close. I agree with you, the upstairs needs a lot of work. We need to do something about that, but the downstairs is coming along. We do have a 501c3 that was established for the Town Hall Engine Hall Museum that we're working on the Archives Commission to get that.
We do have one?
Yeah, there was one originally set up, and I'll let Roger talk a little bit more about that, maybe if he wants to weigh in, but we're.
Yeah, 1 second. Is you everything?
I'm speechless.
I like the idea of the city becoming more committed, and I agree with John that where that fund should come from, but I do agree with you 100%. There's 2 facilities on the square that we actually own, and that's the gazebo and the firehouse. And the firehouse, again, through...
In the bathrooms.
And the bathrooms, yeah, okay. Okay, I'm going to be 3. But I do think the firehouse is important more than just the exterior. Again, Mr. Smalley and the Archive Commission's just been phenomenal in the work that they've done over the last several years. And most of the things that are there now are through the donations and hard work of the Archives Committee and some other people like yourself. But I do think at some point in time we are going to have to, my opinion, that we should assist them in finding funding, whether that come from us or another source, through grants or whatever, but it is our building, and that's like one of the first things that the public notices when they come to the bank.
John.
Oh, he's back. No, go ahead.
Well, I was trying to figure out exactly what I want to say, and that's kind of what I wanted to say. I don't want to see us keep throwing money at something either if nothing's going to happen, but if we've got a concrete plan and we see we're making steps towards that goal, then maybe in the future I could see putting some money towards it. I do like the idea of the 501c3. I mean, in the case of the Cemetery Commission, it's working. They have a lot of help from
Friends of the Cemetery.
Friends of the Cemetery.
We have Friends of the Museum.
Maybe we can get to that point.
Bill, I've always been in support of the firehouse. I remember when we tried to get the elevator fixed and when it was asked for us to contribute additional funds, I've always supported it. So I know it's come a long way. I would like to see the upstairs finished, whether it's for a community room or something, because I do think the building's underutilized. But I know they've worked hard to get it to where it's at, and funding for it, I mean, I'm kind of open to it because, I mean, we got to get them up off the ground. I was under the impression that there was outside funds besides the city that was going to get you guys to the point where the building would be complete and, upstairs and downstairs would be open to the public. I wasn't aware that we were coming up short with funds, so.
Well, that's 2 different things, though. The upstairs, we administration, we work with the administration. I think that funding, that the idea for that is in place. We have the preliminary plan done for the upstairs.
Right.
But back to the funding, and that's why I think we should do this in a committee group with the Archive Commission and interested parties so that we can have a really positive outcome. But I will say that, to not fund something, in this country, your worth as an employee is usually based on what they pay you. And the significance of what we do here really has a lot to do with what we fund. And I think, as I said, while we have people here who have knowledge and ability to do this, I think we should take advantage of it and work on this organizationally, have the discussion about it, have the review, which is healthy, And then look at that funding, because I don't think that you can operate this just on an ad hoc, an expectation that people are just going to volunteer to show up to open it up. I think we want to really promote this, you know, both as a selling point for the city, a selling point when people come, a place where once the upstairs is open, you can take a school there, they can go through the museum, they can hop up the stairs and have a community room and see a great movie about the history of Medina, the restoration, what's happened here. I think those things matter a lot. And I think that in order to get it where you want it to be, you have to fund it. I mean, it has to have a mechanical system, it has to have the floor done, it has to have, you know, whatever they come up with that they need to have, there has to be money to do that. And to just, and that's why I think it's good to have outside organizations. The CDC already said that they would match funds for, you know, if we needed to, they needed funding to get somebody to pay somebody to show up. They needed somebody just to open the place up occasionally that was responsible. And I think there's other groups who'd probably be willing to do that also. But I don't think we can do, it's kind of like the 60s, you know, when it was, you know, you can sell cupcakes to raise money for schools, but there was plenty of money for missiles. You didn't have to sell cupcakes to missiles. I mean, we have an important thing here, and I think we have an opportunity with Roger, the Archive Commission, Main Street, that we could really make this a special place, but it has to then be open. You know, we can't just have people looking in the windows, so.
I mean, we've thrown seed money at, like, organizations like Main Street. I mean, I don't mind throwing some, when we find out what that number is, and I'm sure I'll be satisfied with it, but I don't mind throwing additional funds at it. If there's a plan, and this is something that's gonna, this next round of funds will be something that'll put the organization in place for the future. Ongoing annual contributions, I'm still fighting with the city's funds, but I think if everything's in place, and I mean, it's already come up, I think, like I said before, a long way, but I think once you promote the firehouse and people know more about the Archive Commission, I mean, maybe you'll get more volunteers that you won't have to actually have to pay somebody to come out on a Saturday. And Jim, I'm in for the band concerts.
All of them?
No, we're going to alternate.
You said the band concerts, I thought.
Well, alternation.
And I would just like,
I'll fill in for John if he backs out.
personally witnessing, and I'm sure the entire Archive Commission, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but I personally witnessed Mr. Smalley spend countless hours. I remember, I don't know, you probably remember what year it was, Mr. Smalley, but Mr. Smalley instituted this fire muster several years ago, where antique trucks were brought in from different communities and stuff, and he spent so much time, and again, over the candlelight walks over the years, it was Mr. Smalley that I seen up there with the card table set up and the little videos, you know. So the Archives Commission, even though it's not what all of us envision, what we would like in the future, there still has been a lot of people, and again, Mr. Smalley, that has dedicated a large portion of their time to get it up and running. And I know all of us do, but I appreciate it.
Roger, I assume you spoke with Bill and you're okay with trying to get something together and...
No, this is all new to me tonight. No, I wasn't aware of any.
We haven't spoken.
I saw it was on the agenda, and I thought...
Oh, what are your thoughts?
Well, we can always use more money, of course. But right now, we did send the minutes of our last meeting to everyone on council. I hope you had a chance to look at those. We have not spent all of the $18,000 that council very generously gave. We have plans to spend a good chunk of that for new display cases and some other things. The electronics, we can do a pretty good part of that with the remaining funding. You know, we opened officially on the 22nd of November, and from the 22nd of that month through the 24th of February, we had over 4,000 people come to the museum. I don't think there's, maybe with the exception of Castle Noel, I don't think there's another museum in Medina County that even came close to those numbers. It's in a good spot, and when we have it open for events, you know, people come in. In the minutes we sent you, you know that we have a very aggressive summer schedule set up. We have 14 people that have volunteered to be docents, to actually be there and host the museum. And I would think we're on a pretty good track here. And the nonprofit that Mr. Shields mentioned was originally the Boardman Foundation. Has since become the Medina Town Hall and Engine House Museum Foundation, a rather long name. But we sent out a mailing to people that we knew were interested in local history. And right now, we are not a 501c3. Unfortunately, that was allowed to lapse without anyone on the current commission's knowledge. So we're in the process of getting that reinstated. But even knowing it wasn't a 501c3, people donated. They gave to the museum, they gave to the history of Medina. And we plan to continue that and grow that. And as we get more people involved, I think we'll have more people to volunteer as well. Critically, I certainly agree with Mr. Lamb and I think all of you. If the upstairs were what I think we'd all like to see it, additional displays could go up there as well from our history. But it would also really complete that building in a way that I think would make the community even more proud of what's in there. I will say that the people that have come through have been nothing but just tremendously complimentary about the displays that are there. And we don't even have everything out yet. That's why we need these new cases. So I think we're on a pretty good track. We have a representative from the Community Design Committee on the Archive Commission. We have a representative from Main Street. Our meetings are public. If you want us to meet, or representatives of the Archive community with special legislation, we'll certainly do that. Whatever council would like, any more information you want, we'll be glad to offer it. I don't know if Matt wants to add anything. He's also on the Archive Commission.
No, nothing to add, just point of clarification, my position on the archives is as a private resident, not representing Main Street Medina.
Well, Bill, I mean, we'll transfer this over to special legislation and call a meeting and that the members of the Archive Commission attend, or whomever else wants other stakeholders to attend, to go over some of the long-term plans and the involvement or your perceived or the recommended involvement of the city in the future, whether expansion or of the firehouse, museum. I mean, see what you can come up with and see what the stakeholders provide.
Yeah, I think that's good. Let me ask Roger one question.
Sure.
Roger, when you have people coming through the museum, is there a significant number of folks that you think are probably from Medina that look at what you have up and are recognizing for the first time kind of the progression of history to the restoration?
Yes, absolutely.
They're kind of astounded when they get there that this is how this happened?
Well, that's part of the reason we've gone this way.
Okay.
I had one of the teachers from the high school in the other day, last week ago on Sunday, and we're making ties with the schools as well. I know Mr. Shields is working on that. So, yeah, I mean, people from Medina, but it's amazing how many people from out of the community come through and go, wow, I wish we had something like this in our home.
Right, right. And just so you know, I mean, Nino has a copy, the engineering department's got a copy of the plans, for the upstairs, that, you guys can take a look at too and see that are almost, those plans are almost finished.
All right, we'll put it to your committee, hold your meeting, get all the stakeholders that are involved, with the uptown, downtown, round town, whatever you want to call it. Different things. And then we'll go from there to see what else we had. I mean, Roger, that's great that we had 4,000 people come through. I know at the State of the State, you had some state officials come through. I think they were impressed from looking at the paper about what Medina was about, which is good. Hopefully we can get some additional state funding maybe. So, yeah, put it together and see what you can come up with and what the recommendations would be.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'd just like to make one more comment about the uptown. I'm sure everybody has watched the local news about, I believe it's Garrett's Mill, big fire they had downtown. The administration should pat themselves on the back, and the engineering department and Mr. Coley's staff for working on that water line replacements to get more water pressure into the uptown area. So hopefully, and the chief painter, so we can hopefully prevent a tragedy like that happen again in our community. Thanks.
Okay. The next item we have is 1458, the cooperative purchase of ODOT and the sodium chloride agreement. Mr. Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. We received this notification on March 12th, and they submitted the same day, requesting an emergency clause. If you look at the insert, it needs to be back signed and approved no later than April 8th. So with that, this is next winter's rock salt. We're talking about.
Can't give it up. So we're already planning for next winter.
We are, and this, the only change in this contract, they've gone, the state being they, changed from 80/120 to 90/110, meaning the minimum is 90%, the maximum is 110, so they've tightened they restricted the amount of usage a little bit, so.
Okay.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second with the emergency clause.
Any questions about our salt? How much salt do we have left, or?
We actually are in decent shape. We have almost full bins.
For the next snowfall that we're going to have?
We're supposed to have, I was informed we're supposed to have some measurable snow tomorrow, but I didn't want to get dramatic.
You dramatic? Yeah, I know. Why start today?
Hey, Dino, have they specified who the supplier is going to be next year? Is it going to be Morton or Cargill?
We won't know that because we piggyback on this. It's whoever is awarded that bid to the state and the counties piggyback on it as we piggyback on it.
Okay.
And, there is no need to take advantage of the order up to October 31st? We're that full?
No, for the summer fill, no,
we're
we
that
are, Mayor and I had discussions with Gary Roman, we talked about adding on, but Gary did come up with, we're investigating as we speak, taking out the center walls. I don't want to belabor things. The way our bins are divided, they're divided into four with the center wall. We're proposing to take that center wall out and add on the back, which will allow us possibly to have another 800 tons in addition to what we have currently. So that would be our addition. So if that happens, we're not going to be able to take it out in summer fills. So we'll be good with that.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1459, resolution of support for issue 1. And I believe this came to the mayor and Patrick. There's some emails, as you see in here, about the importance of it. And maybe Pat can just a little.
Yeah, it's a great program. I did a summary that you might have in front of you since '89, I believe. I don't have it from memory, but I believe it was 27 projects with more than $5.9 million in funding. And I would just note coincidentally, the two projects we have later on today's agenda here, Wadsworth Road and Dustin Court, are both being funded through that program. So it's a great program, and I should say we deal with a lot of grants. This by far is the most user-friendly. It's really set up well for the communities to be able to access it and use it economically. And it's a very good program, so I recommend that we support it.
Questions?
I think at least since I've been on council, every single year we've been able to complete projects.
Just about every year. I think a couple years ago, we actually had 3 in 1 year. There's been 2 or 3 years where we didn't over the last 20, well, since '89, but for the most part, every year we
Right.
release one.
Okay, I'm good.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 10, 1460, expenditure of $15,000 to Arnold Masonry for the public buildings. Mr. Pacoli?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for the planters, the retaining walls that we have in front of specifically the police department that's in dire need of rebuilding. References a wing wall, especially over on the front steps, City Hall as you go over to court, identifying the left and the right there. We had a gentleman come in, we actually had a PO that was written in his company. It was Nimitz and Son Restoration for what we thought was a favorable price. That was a year ago. The gentleman came out, didn't even start the job. There were some issues going on with him medically and just didn't do the job. So it was difficult to get someone out here. I found this gentleman from Seville, that's this Greg Arnold, Arnold Masonry. He gave us a fairly decent price from the other stand, tearing down all the way to the footer and rebuilding the block and trying to match the brick, which I'll get with Jonathan on to get the brick matched as best as we can. 40-something years old, what's existing. And part of the issue, well, actually the main issue with the planters failing, back in the day they did install them properly. It was a footer, there was a block wall and then the brick facing the soldier row as they define it. There's some weep holes with some drainage, but those have silted over the years, and we've tried to blow them back with the hose and some high pressure, and it's not going to do it. Between the plantings and the roots, they've just silted. Excuse me. So with that, just the weight of the dirt and the ice and the water that's gotten them has pushed them out over the years, and to the point where someone's going to get hurt because they could either fall over. Kids climb on them, and we try to keep them off. Again, we just need to get this done. So.
Questions?
You know, is it common for this type of project that we pay half of it up front?
No, that's the other part that I was talking to Patrick about. That's never something that we've dealt with. So I told the gentleman, saw that on his quote, and I said, I don't think that's going to happen. We can have this discussion. Obviously, the law department is going to have to approve the contract, so contingent upon Greg's approval. I told the gentleman, we don't pay up front. And then 1 week later, the balance, that just doesn't happen.
Well, if you want to use your credit card, sorry.
That's
That's what I said.
You might get reimbursed maybe.
We have purchased materials before on a job, and then, but that didn't work out as well, so.
All right, I mean, as long as, I think I'm okay approving it as long as, we don't pay it up front, I guess. Upon completion as a governmental entity, we would want the contractor, though unlikely, to take the half and disappear. Everybody?
Are we paying half up front?
No, we don't.
No.
Possibly take the half and disappear.
No, but I'm saying that's.
We're not gonna let it happen.
And I respect to Greg. Greg's not seen the proposal yet. I just handed it to him, so he's
How
looking at
about,
it for the
how about
first time.
subject to the law
There
just
isn't anything to really discuss. I won't approve this.
Yeah, so it's subject to his approval.
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Move to approve subject to the law director's approval.
Sorry. With the warranty clause?
No.
Do you have that on there? I thought you
Yeah, it's just
Yes, we do.
did. I'll just find it to those. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 11, 1461, amending ordinance 1514, backup building official. Mr. Mendel.
Yes, thank you. This is ordinance to increase the amount of money that's associated with using the services of the City of Brunswick chief building official while we're in between our own building officials. With the ordinance number 1514, it was specifically delineated there to not exceed $6,000. Well, we've expended that much, and we're still in the process of acquiring a new CBO. So we wanted to increase that $12,000 just as a good buffer, just in case. So that we would just amend the ordinance to have not to exceed $18,000. Just to give us a little bit of time, and request the emergency clause, just so that we can get this moving and keep the payments rolling as quickly as possible for Brunswick.
Questions?
Mayor, you gave us a brief update at our last council meeting, I think. Do you have anything new to add since?
The deadline was Friday. We have one candidate that meets all the qualifications, two others that the state has told us may qualify. They have to do further review. As an interim building official, an interim building official can come in and do the job under the authority of the state for a period of time to achieve their full building official. So that closed out Friday. Dawn is trying to coordinate with Mr. Shields, myself, and Jonathan's schedules to try to look at the one that's got everything we need right now, and get a interview scheduled just with him as opposed to with the group. If this person makes it, we can come to terms with his employment and he passes the background, then we'll be in good shape. If not, then we'll have to go to the two there in the interim and see if we have any luck with that. Aside from that, we have a handful of folks, but we're having a hard time with the state trying to get clear answers. We've got a handful of folks for building officials outside the state, and how much of that will transfer or whether they have to test or not test. They won't do that on a group of candidates. They'll do it on an individual. If we send it down saying, this is the guy we want, what would it take? So rather than overload them with some of those others, we're trying this route first. It's been a challenge. Part of our, let me just clarify that real quickly. part of our challenge has been, we don't have an electrical inspector now. Steve was our electrical inspector when he became our chief building official, then our next inspector didn't have that certification. Well, getting a chief building official with the electrical certification that we need has been the challenge.
So are we not, is it more of a dollar amount too, that we're not being competitive on the?
Well, dollars always help.
Right, no, I understand that.
But we're trying to, in the scheme of things, where this wage fits in the range of this range in comparison to some of our other department heads and things, we have to be careful not to get that out of kilter. So we're hopeful that with these latest 3 applicants, that we should be able to get something in place.
Okay, move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause.
That's for $12,000 additional dollars.
Correct.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12, 1462, raising several city-owned buildings at 342 East Smith Street. Nino.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is what we know as the James Lumber property, piggybacking on the discussion with the building official when formerly we identified. There's 9 buildings there. I think most of you are familiar with the property, 6 of which are, one is been burnt to the ground and there's rubble in the foundation, and the other 5 is having problems and needing to come down. So with that, we were having a discussion and thought the request should go before you about taking the rest of the buildings down and vetting that process. So had a couple contractors I met with that do this regularly, Butcher and Son, Bennett Construction. I tried to get the prices in writing before tonight's meeting. I got a verbal from one and a written of $27,000 from Bennett Construction, and then $17,000 from Butcher and Son. And that would be for the demolition, excuse me, and the removal, disposal of the debris from the 6 buildings that are identified.
So do you need us to take any action tonight because we don't have any numbers? Or
No,
just inform
and
us?
I just need, Board of Control also approved a $5,000 expenditure this evening for the bridge. There's 2 bridges there, so that we can have a inspection, load rating of the bridges. We're not sure if we're able to take equipment across those bridges as they stand today.
You know, did we already set aside money for this a
No,
year or 2
that's
ago?
why it's
No?
TBD, to be determined.
Okay, I thought there was already something in the works and there was funds already set aside.
If there is,
We talked about needing to, but never got to the point of it when Greg ended up leaving, and then now we're just getting back to it.
So this, Nino, would take care of all the buildings there, with the exception of the buildings being used by Habitat?
No.
Some of them are still usable. We're going to try.
So we're going to try to
use those.
keep some
The
of them.
usable ones, yes.
Okay.
There are 3 that are identified.
3?
Correct.
Okay.
Is this, can the brownfield money be used for this purpose?
No, the brownfield dollars are just for phase 1 and 2 environmental assessments which have already been done.
Okay.
To address your question, John, if I may, the bridge inspection and load rating will be about a month, so I want to just bring this before the council tonight for preliminary discussion, and then we'll have a contract quote that Greg can review if you decide to go forward.
Other questions?
No action.
Okay, no action. All right, thanks for the no action item. 63 bids for Wadsworth Road water main. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. As I mentioned, this is a project being funded, this one is a zero interest loan from the Ohio Public Works Commission, the Issue 1 program. We're awarded $250,000 to replace water line in Wadsworth Road, roughly between Parkview Drive and Smoke Rise.
And the timing?
Pardon me?
And the timing of the project?
Project will be done this summer.
Questions?
Move to approve? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 1464, bids for the Gunnison Court reconstruction. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. This one is being funded, 86% of it is being funded through that Issue 1 grant. It's the reconstruction of Gunnison Court, which will include pavement removal and replacement, new storm sewers, and new water lines. Did want to bring a couple things to council's attention. We had a public meeting about the project because some of the residents were concerned about some of the proposed improvements. The existing pavement out there is between 20 and 21 feet wide. Our city standard, and what's required in our code of ordinances, is a 25-foot residential street. We're recommending that we maintain that, go for a 21-foot wide back-of-curb to back-of-curb street. Being a cul-de-sac with very little traffic volume, we think we can do it here safely, but to go the extra couple feet would just be, the houses are very close to the road, it would be a real inconvenience, encroachment on it. It's our right-of-way, but I think we should keep it where it's at. Secondly, there was a lot of discussion about sidewalks. Many on the street, there's no sidewalks out there now. Many on the street don't believe that they're necessary and frankly don't want them. We're proposing kind of a compromise of sorts. The western side of the street, there is some more area available, at least visually. Again, we're all in the right of way, we're not taking any easements or anything. But we propose to put sidewalks down just that side of the street, just the west side, which will provide access to folks that want to use the sidewalks while not providing the encroachment issues that the folks, particularly on the east side, expressed. And lastly, the cul-de-sac right now is just a grass island. It's in the right-of-way, so technically it's the city's maintenance responsibility. I don't know that the city has spent much time maintaining it. Whether the plow truck drivers get stuck in it.
It's a little rutted.
On occasion. We're proposing to remove that island and just put in concrete pavement. This is something a couple of folks on the street requested as well, because they just weren't happy with the aesthetics of that island. I guess it just doesn't get maintained. It doesn't look very nice. So those three things are all different than what our standard requires, so we would need council's authorization to proceed with that.
So no issue with safety vehicles? Fire trucks and stuff?
Well, I think
access?
this would help access for fire trucks getting around that cul-de-sac. I don't know if they get around the cul-de-sac now.
We're gonna be in a 21-foot, I mean, there's a reason.
That's what
why
it
we-
is now.
I know, but I mean, there's a reason why we have 25. Just not, someone just said, well, let's do 25.
Correct. I don't believe so. We have another street, we did this on
Harmony.
Harmony. Same situation, same issues, and we went with the 21-foot wide pavement.
And one sidewalk, not just on one side of the road.
And even the school buses and the garbage trucks have a problem negotiating the cul-de-sac as it is.
Mark, you have?
No, I was just a little concerned about not having a sidewalk all the way around, but
We looked at that, and some of those driveways on the east side are so narrow that by the time we take them the sidewalk, they're not going to have any room to park their cars.
okay.
That first house right on the corner, his vehicle wouldn't even fit in the driveway if we were to put the sidewalk down to one side.
Gotcha.
And all those
Originally, we
houses
thought
on,
the same.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, originally, we thought the same, look, it's a city street, we're doing this improvement, it should be the same as everything else, but then when you look at the implication of that, it just practically didn't make good sense for them. In essence, you're taking the majority of their driveway now.
And to put them on the west side makes sense. If you look at both sides of that street, all the homes on the west side have considerably more frontage, front yard than the east side does.
I think it's the best thing you can do. A couple of us were at that hearing, I think, and I think what you proposed makes sense, and it's good that we can accommodate people, because, you know, that street's got, I guess, two things in particular. One, it's kind of hidden, I don't know how anybody knows it's there, and number two, it's the worst street, it's got to be one of the worst streets ever in town, you know, and the administration's worked hard now to deal with that for those folks that live there, but you wouldn't want to deal with it and have a great street and then have, you know, people can't park in the driveway. And I think it's really healthy as a community that you don't have to say, here's the standard, you get it whether it works or not. You know, I think this makes a lot of sense to the people that live there. I'd like to have, I mean, I like sidewalks too, but, you know, I think it just makes it too disturbing for people's yards and difficult for them to park. I think they're gonna get an improved street and water line, and, you know, Jim's been there, you know I know about it.
And I do, it was part of Ward 4, now it's part of Ward 1.
Yeah.
I know we've been working on it a long time, but when you look at Ward 4, when West Park, Oak Street, Sturbridge Drive, the intersection, there was other projects that needed higher priority at the time, but this one definitely needs to be fixed, so it's good that it's happening now that we've got those other big projects done.
Yeah. And this, going back to that grant again, it would have been tough to give this any kind of high priority, even though the pavement is in horrible condition. It is, I think, one of the worst rated streets in town. There's so little traffic, it's hard to give a priority. I don't know that we would have recommended moving forward with it if we do get grant funds, if that wasn't available to us.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, we have the 1465 consent legislation for ODOT, traffic signal at State Route 3 and High Point.
Thank you. ODOT submitted this to us. They want to move ahead. It was long discussed and actually had a commitment from them for a new signal at State Route 3 and High Point Drive. That intersection is kind of half city, half township. Once you get the east side of Southport, it's township. That's why ODOT is stepping in. For a long time, it was tied to the future development there, the Albrecht development. That hasn't happened yet, though we see some movement, I guess. Anyhow, ODOT is offering to install this signal at 100% their costs. They did ask us to help in securing some of the right-of-way, and they're looking at a 2015 construction.
I guess, I just want to, I was on council when this originally occurred. There was a request to possibly annex some land into the city down there, and if that would occur, the developer would have to pay for the installation of the signalization. I don't think we should pay anything for the signalization there. I mean, that's not our issue. That would have been done before, it doesn't seem like we should. I don't mind giving an issue of consent, but I don't think we were going to contribute any funds for that. Now, when you say the right-of-way, that you're just going to help them, they're going to pay for it?
They're not asking us to enter into any kind of agreement, but they kind of asked us to be the lead in securing the right. They need some right-of-way for these poles.
At no cost to us, though, except for your time.
Correct. I mean, this is through a phone call, like, not really details.
I wouldn't be in favor of granting any money for the signalization. It's just knowing the history of, we were not going to be responsible for it. That was guaranteed, and it was what it was told to us and from the beginning. So that would be my position.
Okay, I am going to ask for something, though. You know where I'm going with this. Is there any chance that we can pull out the island with the light coming and handle that part of it on our own? Because every summer we deal with that where it's an issue, and
You're right.
that was part of the plan, I thought, whether we
That
could.
is part of the plan when Albrecht does do their infrastructure improvements. You know, like I said, they had some movement. They haven't committed to anything formally. We can certainly look into it.
Or maybe at least ask them if they could, if the light's coming in conjunction with that we could pull out the island there.
To the point about the infrastructure, the Planning Commission last meeting on the 14th authorized their infrastructure plan. They're planning on starting to put in the water lines and sewer and things like that in this calendar year. So we are moving in that direction. So this may come a little bit sooner than we thought.
Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. The next item is 1466, expenditure from Atlantic County sanitary engineers for the water emergency. Mr. Pat.
Thank you. This, as everyone remembers, back in January, we had a water emergency where we didn't receive any water from Avon Lake for about 36 hours. We were able to provide some temporary emergency connections with the Medina County system. Medina County is also out of water, but they did have a backup with the City of Cleveland. The City of Cleveland charges them for the water usage, and they're passing on our share of that cost, which is $14,103.76.
Questions?
To approve.
Sorry?
I do have a question. Are we getting any compensation from Avon for this?
I did pursue that. I don't know. I'll leave that up to our auditor.
Yeah. Or is it, could we pay them a flat rate, or how?
No, we pay per usage.
Pay per, so if it didn't come through our meter, we didn't
We
pay
didn't
it?
pay for it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 17, 1467, job creation grant for Discount Drug Mart, Inc. Kimberly?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This request is for the mayor to enter into a job creation grant agreement with Discount Drug Mart for the purpose of purchasing an existing building, vacant building at 1090 Enterprise Drive. The project is to extend their corporate offices and create a specialty pharmacy operation through the remodeling and renovation of that facility, which is about 7,500 square feet. They will be adding 26 new full-time positions and payroll of a little over $1.5 million. And I think on the sheet you got a breakdown of the new jobs, new full-time jobs for 2014, 2015, and 2016. And the agreement will provide Discount Drug Mart with a grant up to 40% of new payroll taxes to the city for 10 years. I'm not sure if Mr. Huber had a chance to review that, so I would ask for it to be subject to his approval. And then just a reminder that while we base the grant on income tax received, it is not funded out of income tax, it's funded from non-tax generated revenues, so just a reminder for that. And then if the company, over the 10-year period, if they hit their goal, the maximum amount they could receive over that 10-year period is $69,500.70. If they go over their target, we allow up to 25% over that, and the maximum they could receive over the 10-year period would be $86,875.87. So I think those numbers are conservative. I think that they will hire more than that, and we would just request your approval for the grant agreement.
Questions?
Would you approve subject to the law director's final review?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right. Any other business? Jim?
I will make a motion then that we go into executive session at 6:59 PM for the purpose of preparing for conducting or reviewing negotiations of bargaining sessions with employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Lamb?
Yes.
Hilberg?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll be recessing into executive session. We'll reconvene after the executive session. We'll be taking no action, and we'll adjourn from that meeting and go to council.